So you think your blood sugar issues, your insulin issues, your need for maybe a GLP-1 agonist, your weight loss resistance is just due to carbohydrates? Think again. I'm here to tell you that the reason you have blood sugar issues, the reason you have insulin issues, the reason you have high fasting A1C, the reason you have weight loss issues or reactive hypoglycemia is not because of carbs. Now, most people that follow us aren't eating, the standard American diet. Of course, that's the catalyst, or not the catalyst, I should say. It's more gasoline on the fire that's already burning out of control. But here's the thing. The catalyst for all blood sugar issues and all insulin issues is chronic stress. What is chronic stress? Chronic stress is when the demands being placed on us exceed what we can handle. It's almost like we're spending more money and we're charging, we're using our credit card and charging. We don't have that money to kind of pay off our bills. What happens? We end up with debt. Within our system, our body is not meant to be in this state all the time. Our body is in this state, when we need that extra energy when we're working out or there's a stress or whatever it may be. The problem is we're not meant to live there all the time. And when we're there all the time, the body has to compensate. So it kicks in all these systems that end in lysis: glycolysis, glycogenolysis, lipolysis, proteolysis. It's the conversion of certain things into sugar in a sense. And the problem is when you're locked in the state for too long, whether you're in sympathetic or dorsal vagal, your body pushes all that sugar into your blood. Well, what happens when this happens? Well, insulin is going to follow, right? But it's really the chronically stressed state that causes that high blood sugar and that causes that high insulin. But the problem with this is when we have this chronic stress and we're pumping out all this cortisol and the adrenals are taken on the chin, many things happen. Thyroid hormone is affected, our ability to tolerate stress is affected, the adrenals are affected, the gut is affected, your hormones affected. The list goes on, right? Your sexual binding is affected. You end up with PCOS, weight loss resistance, what everyone's going through. And I think this is why there's such a drive towards people wanting to take Ozempic, is because we're living faster than ever. We're doing more than ever. People are chronically stressed than ever. And we love to blame food for the problem. And it's not. I'm not saying it's not a piece of the pie, but we can't blame food. We have to start taking responsibility for our actions and understand that we control our inputs. We control our habits, our behaviors, our experiences. And that's what drives the outputs. That's what drives our biology. Now, here's the thing. When we're pumping out all this cortisol, these glucocorticoids, we're in this chronically stressed state, this cortisol has a negative effect on leptin. Leptin and cortisol have an antagonistic relationship, right? Meaning, between meals and at night, leptin needs to dock in the hypothalamus to tell the body the energy status on the next day, so we can, use glucose for energy, oxidized fat for energy, kind of partition energy in a very efficient manner. We can regulate glucose and insulin because that's what leptin does. It kind of oversees these. And in the morning, when we have the signal of sunrise and we eat food, which is basically a light barcode, it's information to our body. So what happens now, leptin starts to come down because it's up at night, same thing with melatonin. But as it comes down, it signals cortisol to go up during the day. It dims up. Why? Many reasons. That's not the point of this video, but that's why we should have an appetite in the morning. But when cortisol's always high, leptin can't dock, can't tell the body the energy status. We get pushed deeper into this basically scarcity state, this sympathetic state, this dorsal vagal state, this stress state. We're in survival mode all the time. And the problem is leptin oversees glucose and insulin. It oversees glucose transfer proteins, shuttling of sugar in the cell, insulin receptors, and so forth. So it essentially affects them negatively. So now we can't regulate our blood sugar. We can't regulate our insulin. We end up with insulin resistance. We end up with high blood sugar, high A1C, and the list goes on. Or weight loss resistance, and the list goes on. But the problem is everyone's blaming glucose, or everyone's blaming insulin, or everyone's blaming food, but no one's talking about leptin. And that's the very thing. And the thing about leptin is it's a circadian signaling hormone, which means it's driven by light. Now, I'm not saying that all you have to do is go outside at sunrise, UVA, UVB, and sunset, or just spend more time outside, right? And you're going to be able to regulate this. That is a huge piece of the puzzle. Of course, we can't live in the same environment that got us sick. We have to change our lifestyle, how we come into the day, move through the day, how we when we eat, our feeding window, fueling window, all these things to meet our current biological state, right? That's going to allow leptin to dock. But the driver, right, is sunlight. It balances that ratio between cortisol and leptin because the hypothalamus is in direct control of sunlight, right? So it begins to take the burden off the HPA, but also, in a sense, and I'm simplifying this, it's not just like this, but when you start going outside more and you start working with your feeding window and fueling window and what you're eating to meet your biological state of being, let's say, insulin resistant or leptin resistant, what happens now is you allow leptin to dock at night because you're not eating after sunset. You're not working out after sunset. You're blocking blue light after sunset, and you're getting outside at sunset. So that passes the reins from the pituitary to pineal. We put out melatonin. We go into repair. Leptin can dock. Now we're able to oxidize fat, use glucose efficiently, and regulate insulin and glucose during the day. And again, that's why I think there's such a push in our culture to always cut calories, over-exercise, or use things like Ozempic in order to lose weight, when in reality, all we're doing is chasing the outputs. We're really not changing our habits. We're not changing our experiences. We're not changing our behaviors, right? We're just adding something within the same environment that got us sick, and we're expecting different results. That always comes with a consequence, always. Now, I wanted to share an interesting story of someone that came into our program, the Nourish Nervous System, which you can find the link below. And this person came in with weight loss resistance, high blood glucose, high A1C, all the issues that most of you are actually struggling with, low testosterone, weight gain, etc. And he tried every program, did fasting, cut carbs, keto, everything, and it kind of worked until it didn't. It didn't have that long-term lasting effect, right? He came in with a blood glucose, I think it was around like 130, 145 fasting, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly. I do remember what it came down to. And within 2 months into the program, without even really getting to the nutrition piece yet, he dabbled in it. He focused on lesson 1, which is about creating new healthy habits and behaviors, right? Why? So we can create an environment that allows us to fine-tune our orchestra, our biology, that allows us to regulate. It takes the burden off the HPA, that allows our biology to reset and resync, right? And strengthens that relationship between cortisol and leptin. At the same time, he focused and worked on his circadian biology, blocking blue light, and so forth. And within 2 months of being in the program, his blood sugars, fasting in the morning, went from, let's say it was 140 to 90 in 2 months without even really focusing on food. Why? Because when we're locked in this chronically stressed state, food won't do anything to get us out of that state. It can be a catalyst to dampen stress if we've changed our environment, if we've changed our habits and behaviors and our experiences to reshape our biology. So now the food is coming into a different system and it's able to work better and help dampen stress. And most people in the state will do better with a higher protein, lower carb diet when they're hypoglycemic, hyperinsulinic, or leptin resistant is what truly it should be called. But I'm not saying that's all you have to do. Remember, leptin's a circadian signaling hormone. Cortisol has an intimate relationship, or the HPA, with sunrise, right? And so forth, and the list goes on. It's not just about getting outside. It is in the simple sense, but there's so many biological things happening when we get out at sunrise, right? We're strengthening that cortisol-leptin, cortisol-melatonin relationship. There's so many things that happen when we go out at UVA, to our neurotransmitters, to dopamine, to the gut, the thyroid, to insulin, and so forth. There's so many things that happen when we go outside at sunset to pass the reins pituitary, so we can start supporting those nighttime programs, and we can allow leptin to dock, so we can start waking up with an appetite and actually losing weight over time and regulating our blood sugar without living in this world of needing lab supplements and restrictive diets, right? So I'm here to tell you that it's not just about carbs. As a society, we love to demonize them. I'm not sitting here and saying you can eat Pop-Tarts, Taco Bell, or pound fruit all day long. There's a lot more to it than that. We always have to honor where we live, right? And our current biological state. So if you're coming into this with leptin resistance, you have to look beyond food, because if you do, you're going to get the results that you desire.